Every single time the SHOT Show rolls around in January, the marketing executives try to convince us our gun safes are filled with obsolete junk. They trot out some hypervelocity miracle cartridge, swearing up and down that it completely defies the laws of physics. I decided to call their bluff. I spent the last few weeks poring over Doppler radar data, talking to professional outfitters and looking at real-world terminal ballistics. And the truth is exactly what your grandpa told you decades ago. The century-old 3006 Springfield remains the absolute apex predator. It effortlessly crushes almost every flavor of the month caliber sitting on the dealer shelves today. And that is exactly why the most seasoned outdoorsmen in 2025 are staking their dream hunts on this classic brass. Before we start turning money into noise on the range today, do me a massive favor. Crush that subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a range day with us. And smash that like button right now. It feeds the algorithm and keeps this channel entirely free from corporate overlords. Let's get into the data, the caliber that refuses to fade away. I have spent enough decades burning powder to recognize the industry hamster wheel. Every 5 years, a new ballistic darling takes the internet by storm. A decade ago, the 6.5 Creedmoor arrived, and folks acted like wind deflection had been completely cured. Now, the 7mm PRC is stealing all the magazine covers. That is fine and dandy. But out in the real world, the 3006 is quietly filling freezers, just like it has been doing every single autumn since 1906. This is a cartridge that earned its stripes cutting through European trenches before coming home to conquer the North American wilderness. We are talking whitetail in the eastern swamps to massive bull elk in the Rockies. You cannot buy that kind of combat and field resume. It is forged by delivering catastrophic energy transfer, in freezing rain, across steep canyons, on heavy-boned animals. When you look at off-the-shelf factory ammunition, living right in that golden zone of 150 to 180 grains, you are getting muzzle velocities between 2,700 and 2,900 feet per second. That equates to a sledgehammer blow of roughly 2,900 foot-pounds of energy right out of the muzzle. In practical, shooter-to-shooter terms, it shoots flat enough to drop anything inside ethical hunting ranges. It hits like an absolute freight train, and terminal expansion is boringly reliable. Whether you are running traditional cup and core lead, premium bonded meat savers, or solid copper penetrators. Professional hunting guides hate surprises. They want a round that does exactly what it is supposed to do every single time. The 3006 gives you that absolute peace of mind, without forcing you to hunt down obscure, overpriced boutique boxes. Ballistics do not care about hype. Let's dive into the actual numbers, because physics could not care less about the latest tactical trend. Take a standard 3006 pushing a 165 grain soft point out of a standard 22 or 24-inch hunting barrel. You are consistently clocking 2,800 feet per second. Bump that up to a heavy 180 grain payload. You are cruising at 2,700 feet per second, generating between 2,800 and 3,000 foot-pounds of energy right out the gate. That is the kind of kinetic payload that anchors an elk in its tracks. Zero that 165 grain pill at 200 yards. You will see a very predictable 7 or 8 inches of drop at 300 yards, and right around 45 to 50 inches at the 500-yard line. Got a 10-mile-per-hour crosswind out at 500? You are dialing for about 20 to 24 inches of windage. That is highly manageable data for any competent rifleman. Let's look at the alternatives. The beloved 308 Winchester, slinging that same 165 grain bullet. It tops out around 2,650 to 2,700 feet per second. The arc is similar, but it runs out of steam and shedding energy fast past 300 yards. What about the 6.5 Creedmoor pushing a 140 grain pill? You get about 2,650 feet per second out of a standard sporter barrel. Sure, the slick ballistic coefficient bucks the wind beautifully, but the kinetic energy it actually deposits into the animal? It falls completely short of the 3006 at identical ranges. Then we have the current heavy hitter, the 7mm PRC, sending a 175 grain bullet screaming at near 3,000 feet per second. It shoots incredibly flat, but the trade-off is a vicious recoil impulse, and a brutal price tag per trigger pull. The 30-06 lives exactly in the Goldilocks zone. It brings enough mass and speed to shatter the front shoulder of a moose, without punishing your collarbone like a 300 Win Mag or a 300 Ultra Mag. And recoil absolutely matters in the field. If you anticipate the bang, you will pull the shot. A standard 8-pound 30-06 rifle kicks back with about 18 to 20 foot-pounds of force. The 308 hovers at 16. The 6.5 Creedmoor is a gentle 13 to 15. But that new 7mm PRC, you are jumping up into the harsh low 20s. Slap a quality modern recoil pad on a properly fitted 30-06 stock, and you have a rifle you can shoot comfortably all afternoon. True versatility is the ultimate flex. The number one reason this caliber never leaves my primary rotation is absolute versatility. It is a ballistic chameleon. If I am stalking thin-skinned plains game like antelope or a corn-fed whitetail, I will grab a fast 150 or 165 grain soft point. Your classic Remington core-locked, Winchester power point, or Federal Fusion. They exit the muzzle scorching at 2,800 to 2,900 feet per second. They expand violently in the boiler room, dropping the animal without destroying the front quarters. But let's say you need to punch through heavy bone on a massive buck standing at a bad angle. You just swap your magazine over to a premium bonded or solid copper bullet, a Federal trophy bonded tip, a Nosler AccuBond, or the legendary Barnes TTSX. Those projectiles stay intact, retain their weight, and push straight through to the vitals. That is the difference between tracking blood until midnight and packing meat by noon. Now, when the temperature drops and you are going after elk, moose, or grizzly, the 30-06 steps up to the heavyweight division. You feed it a 180-grain Nosler partition, or a thick-jacketed 178-grain bonded round. You are looking at a sectional density right around .271, with aerodynamic BC numbers hovering in the .45 to .55 neighborhood. That guarantees deep, crushing penetration and lethal energy way past the 300-yard mark. Heading to Alaska for the really toothy critters? You can easily source 200 and even 220 grain factory loads, pushing your sectional density well over .300, because virtually every 30-06 barrel uses a 1 in 10 twist rate. It stabilizes those massive flying ashtrays flawlessly. And this old dog absolutely loves new tricks. If you hunt in a restricted state that mandates non-lead ammo, modern monolithic options like the Barnes TTSX or the Hornady CX perform exceptionally well. They open up perfectly at standard 30-06 speeds. Want to stretch the legs on your rifle across a canyon? Load up the Hornady ELDX or a Nosler AccuBond long range. You get match-grade aerodynamics without needing a magnum bolt face. The logistics make too much sense to ignore. You sight in with a fast 165 for local deer, then adjust a few clicks for a heavy 180 when you fly out for elk. One single platform, every large mammal on the continent. Zero excuses. Ammunition you can actually find here is where the fantasy of new calibers slams hard into reality. During the great supply chain meltdown of 2020, when every gun shop in America looked like a ghost town, I could still walk in and find dusty green and yellow boxes of 30-06 on the shelf, while the internet fanboys were crying on forums because they could not feed their new precision rigs. The sheer volume of rifles in circulation means every major ammo plant runs this caliber non-stop. Remington, Federal, Winchester, Hornady. They maintain multiple catalog items all year long. You have your working-class ammo like the core-locked and PowerShock, sitting right beside top-tier boxes like the Federal Fusion, Nosler Partition, and Barnes VOR TX. This availability is your ultimate insurance policy. If the airline loses your duffel bag, or you drive 6 hours to deer camp and realize your ammo can is sitting in your garage, you can pull into a small-town hardware store or a dusty gas station off Interstate 95 and find boxes of 30-06 sitting right beside the 308 and the 270. Good luck trying to pull off that miracle with a 6.5 PRC or a 277 SIG. Exotic calibers look fantastic on ballistic apps, but they are essentially expensive tent poles if you cannot buy bullets. And for the handloaders in the audience, It is an absolute playground. Once-fired brass is laying all over the dirt at every public range. High-quality reloading dies from RCBS, Hornady, Redding, and Lee are always in stock. And because it utilizes a standard .308 diameter bullet, you have access to the most extensive catalog of projectiles in the world, ranging from a light 125 grains all the way up to 220. Your bank account will thank you for adopting a caliber that is bulletproof against market panics. Mechanical reliability under stress. Let's address the elephant on the bench, which is shootability. A lot of modern shooters complain about the kick, but context is everything. In a typical hunting setup, you are managing 18 to 20 foot-pounds of felt recoil. Put that shoulder to shoulder with a 7mm Magnum or a 300 Win Mag. Those Magnums are significantly sharper and far more violent. If you thread on a modern suppressor or even just add a thick limb saver pad, the 30-06 tames down to an absolute pussycat. You can run cheap, low-recoil 150-grain loads for high-volume range training. Then simply confirm your zero with the heavy stuff before hunting season. But the absolute hallmark of this cartridge is mechanical reliability. The case design is a masterpiece of early 20th century engineering. It features a long, smooth body taper and a highly forgiving shoulder angle. That geometry means it strips cleanly out of internal magazines. And primary extraction is flawless, even when your chamber is packed with freezing mud. It is no coincidence that the most trusted bolt actions ever manufactured are chambered for it. The venerable Remington 700, the legendary Winchester Model 70, the slick Tikka T3, the workhorse Savage 110. Even gas guns like the iconic Browning BAR cycle this round like a finely tuned sewing machine. Through sleet, snow, and gritty wind, the 30-06 simply refuses to quit. Because the recoil is entirely manageable. You can maintain your sight picture and spot your own impacts through the scope, which means you are instantly ready for a fast follow-up shot if the situation goes sideways. Sub-MOA accuracy means absolutely nothing if the gun makes you flinch. This caliber lets you focus completely on your trigger press instead of fearing the blast. The crown has not shifted. So, after crunching the ballistic coefficients and dragging heavy packs out of the backcountry, here is the final word from the firing line. The 30-06 Springfield has been stacking bodies and filling freezers since 1906, and it remains the gold standard that every modern hunting round is desperately trying to beat. It gives you an incredibly wide spectrum of projectile weights. It hits with sledgehammer authority that encroaches on magnum territory. It flies flat enough to handle 99% of ethical engagements in the wild. And above all else, you can source ammunition for it in almost any zip code on the map. It punches through heavy shoulders, it drives deep into the vitals, and it puts high-quality protein on the dinner table. It is the ultimate proven multi-tool for the American outdoorsman. So here is my professional advice as we push through 2025. If you already have a well-worn 30-06 sitting in the back of the safe, do not sell it. Take care of it. Confirm your dope, grab a box of premium modern bonded ammo, and get out into the woods. If you are a new shooter looking to invest in your very first serious hunting rifle, ignore the flashy marketing campaigns pushing the newest fad. Buy yourself a high-quality bolt action chambered in 30-06. Learn your holds in the reticle, master your wind calls, and let this legendary American cartridge handle the heavy lifting. All right, folks, if you learned something new or just enjoyed the range time today, do me a solid before you click away. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell. And jump down into the comments right now. Let me know what your absolute favorite 30-06 hunting load is. I sit down with a cup of coffee and read every single one of those comments. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Stay safe, train hard, and I will see you downrange.